Hi, welcome to the informational video for Unique Ecological Communities, South Florida, January 2020. My name is John Vaniel, and let me give you a quick understanding of what this course is all about and see if it's something that really interests you. First, I really want to talk about the cost because I know that's a big issue for everybody. The fee for the course is $1,000. That covers all the things that you see listed here. And check it out. The campgrounds that we're going to be staying at, the state and national park entrance fees, the rental, we're going to rent kayaks once, bikes once, canoe once, snorkel gear another time, and literally all the meals that you're going to eat when you're in Florida. I imagine you're going to need a little bit more spending money in your pocket. You're going to want to buy some souvenirs. You're going to want snacks here and there, meal on the, at the airport sort of thing. So make sure that you have a little bit of money when you actually arrive at the airport, please. In addition to the fare, you're going to have to also pay for 3 credits. If you're an in-state student, that's $591 and a little bit of extra for the fees that they tack on. Every time you pay tuition, there's a few fee dollars that have to be paid as well. Check out and see if financial aid will pay for that. Maybe you've got veteran benefits. There's other ways that this could be paid. I do want to also point out as I'm stumbling through this that I really don't have time to make fancy edits, so hopefully this will all make sense in the morning for me as well as for you. We're starting to accept payments on October 2nd. That's a $200 non-refundable deposit. Of course, it would be refunded if the course is canceled or if you were to find someone to take your place. But I do want to point out here that on November 16th, when that third payment is due, we're going to be issuing the tickets. That means your name is going to be attached to the airline ticket, and that $400 that we've had to pay for the ticket would not be refundable at that point. They'll take check, cash, credit card, and all this gets paid down at the bursar's office. That's down in the one stop. There's a student payment window. If you went to field camp, you know where that window's at. If not, somebody will help you get there. I also want to point out that you have to be registered, have your tuition paid. Really, that would ideally be done before you leave for the semester. I don't want to be chasing people down in the middle of January to try to get you to pay. You can't get on the airplane unless you've paid for your tuition and your $1,000 have all been paid for. Well, who am I? Well, I'm John Vaniel. I'm a professor of environmental conservation at the college. I teach only wildlife classes, so I have a huge interest in the Everglades and South Florida because it's a great place for wildlife. There's a picture of me and my wife from the late 80s. I'm trying to figure out if I've been to the Everglades 14 or 15 times. I can't exactly recall, but either way, I've been there a bunch. Here's the photo that I can find of my first time ever being in the Florida Everglades. I was a student at Finger Lakes Community College in January of 1983. Marty Dodge, who's now retired, took this photo, and that's me right there on my way to get a picture of this alligator. I promise I will not be bringing those socks with me, but if you take a look at all those plaid flannel shirts, you can tell FLCC has had a presence in the Everglades for many, many years. Accompanying us on the trip will be Patty Thompson. If you're at FLCC, you know Patty well. Dave Rockwell is also going to be joining us. He's recently retired from Corning Community College, where he taught recreation classes for years and years. These guys are going to help us on the ground. They're going to meet us right at the airport. They're going to have the FLCC vans, all the group gear, all our personal gear with us, help us set up at the campgrounds, do the meal prep with us, and really get a chance to teach us some additional skills as well. And this is what we're really going to be learning. Now look, it's going to be a little bit more complicated than this, but this is nice for the slide here. We're going to cover all of the main ecosystems of South Florida. That's mangrove forests, cypress swamps, the Everglades itself, that marshland, that river of grass, the coral reefs, the Florida Keys themselves, and we're going to be using wildlife as our focus here. I'm not suggesting that we're only going to learn about wildlife, but we're going to use wildlife as our entree into the ecology of the place. We're going to learn plants. We're going to learn geology. We're going to do some stargazing. It's going to be an overall look at the ecology down there with wildlife really as our focus, though. That gives us a chance to look at some big topics like endangered species, the opposite side of that coin, introduced species. Human-wildlife conflict is a huge thing in the Everglades. You're certainly not at the top of the food chain in the Everglades, and other aspects as well. Specifically, we're leaving on January 6th from the Rochester Airport. Early in the morning, that's 6:10 a.m. We have a quick layover in Baltimore, and then we head down to Fort Myers. On the way back, we're leaving from the Fort Lauderdale Airport, so we don't have to retrace our steps. almost 6 p.m., so we've got a full day of activity planned for the 16th, and we arrive in Rochester a little bit before midnight. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be flying with you. There's 12 students that are able to go on the trip, and Petty and Dave will meet us down there, and we'll have the luxurious FLCC vans to take us around. You know, I really have a basic itinerary here, and I hope this is enough to get you guys excited about it. I stole these pictures off of the internet. I'm cutting some corners of activities that we're going to do, but I really can't make this a 15-hour long video here. Once we get off the airplane in Fort Myers, we're going to head right to the coast for some manatee viewing. Manatee viewing is very weather dependent. We're hoping for a little bit of a cold weather here so that the manatees are drawn into the warm water, and we'll have some nice viewing like these folks had. We spent about a day and a half in the cypress ecosystem, both at Fakahatchee Strand State Park and Big Cypress National Preserve. All the trees in the picture here are cypress trees. It's a fascinating ecosystem. We'll learn about the plants and the animals that live here. That rounds out what we're doing on the western side of the Florida coast. We're going to then cut across to the eastern side along US 41. That's also called the Tamiami Trail because it runs from Tampa to Miami. And along the way, we're going to be passing through the heart of the Florida panther remaining habitat. Now, the chances of us seeing a Florida panther are pretty slim. Of course, you're not going to see them anywhere else in the world, but they're so endangered and they're so secretive that it'd be really tough to see one. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to make a stop and do a hike and look for some tracks. They cross US 41 on underpasses instead of going across the road here. You can see the fences and the barbed wire. So we'll see what we can come up with, and we'll still learn about this animal even if we don't have a chance to see one. The big chunk of the course is going to actually be spent within Everglades National Park, and I'm pretty excited about that. Our first stop in the Everglades is at Shark Valley. We'll be renting bicycles to take the 13-mile paved trail around, and we're going to head to that tower that you see on the right-hand picture. Now, if you look at that scene, this doesn't look like any valley that you see in the Finger Lakes. The Everglades is pretty flat, so a small change in elevation, a couple feet, means the difference between standing water and standing trees. So calling this a valley is something that a South Floridian would do, not something that an upstate New Yorker would do. Hey, we should see alligators. I don't know if we're going to have an experience like these folks did on the left, but we definitely should see some basking turtles, birds, other reptiles. Who knows what we're going to see on this. It's a nice wildlife place. I've seen river otters here before. It's an exciting spot. And I tell you, I could do a whole half hour just on the Anhinga Trail here. This is my absolute favorite place in all of the Everglades. It is a boardwalk trail and then a paved trail. We should be able to see all kinds of wildlife here. We're going to visit this at least twice, one time at night with spotlights so we can have a look at what alligators look like in the dark. And at the other end of the road is the Flamingo Campground. We're also going to be staying here for 2 nights. This is on the Florida Bay, so that's salt water in the picture there on the left that has 0 pixels attached to it. We're going to rent canoes, go through some mangroves here. If you enjoy the stinging bite of parasites, this is the place for you because we should run into some mosquitoes while we're down here, but that blood donation is going to be worth it. What a great place. I'm really, really looking forward to this half of the Everglades trip. We're also going to go down to the Florida Keys, and our 2 big events there is snorkeling at John Pennekamp. John Pennekamp is a series of patch reefs. We should see barracuda. We have a chance to see nurse sharks. We might see that invasive lionfish that's causing all kinds of problems, and we have some chance to talk really about some good ecology when we're there. The other experience we're going to have is going down to the Key Deer Refuge. This is an amazing place. The Florida key deer is an endangered subspecies of the whitetail, and when you look at these guys, you can see how small they are. None of them have spots on them. These are all full-grown adults. They're the size of German Shepherds. They tolerate people a little bit too much, actually. Most of this is due to the fact that people illegally feed them. But we should have no problem getting to see key deer and talking about their ecology and what it means to be an endangered species. I'm sure you still have some questions. This was a whirlwind little tour here. Feel free to email me at john.vaniel@flcc.edu. And if you go down to pay your deposit and you find that your trip is full, please email me so you can get on the wait list. You never know what's going to happen. Maybe it's going to be something great, like someone gets a job in January and they no longer can go on the trip, and that opens up a spot for you to be able to go. I'd hate to have you miss the opportunity at least to get on the wait list for this. I'd like to round off this little video presentation with a few of my favorite pictures from the last time I was in the Everglades. You'll see that there's a lot of bird heavy focus here. The Everglades is full of birds and they're beautiful. Look at that purple gallinule on the left there. Just a fantastic bird. Green heron on the right. Crested caracara feasting on some roadkill. We should see fish. We should see them before the birds even catch them. The water's pretty clear down there, so fish watching is actually pretty exciting, even when we're not snorkeling in the Keys. And I'll end you here with this lizard, so the quick reminder that we will be seeing all kinds of other stuff besides just birds. We're going to do geology work. We're going to do some astronomy stuff. We should talk about hydrology. There's botany. There's really something for everybody on this trip. Well, thank you for listening to my TED Talk. I'm John Vaniel, and I hope to see you in South Florida in 2020.